Welcome to the Mexpreneurs Podcast, the podcast about the stories of Mexican tech startup founders who are building world-class, fast-growing companies and having a positive impact at a large scale. My name is Sergio Chavez. I'm a Mexican based in Germany, a tech startup founder, executive, and mentor, and your host. Today we welcome back Mario Hernandez. Mario is founder and CEO of IMPESA, a FinTech startup based in San Jose, Costa Rica. IMPESA is an innovator of electronic payment solutions for banks. Its flagship product, MoneyBite, allows business customers of corporate banks to manage and control the way their credit cards are used. Transactions over $2.7 billion have flowed through IMPESA solutions. IMPESA has developed partnerships with leaders in the financial industry, such as Visa and PayPal. In addition to Costa Rica, the startup is present in 5 countries across Central America and the Caribbean, and it recently opened its Mexican branch as part of its international expansion. While Mario, in his role as CEO, oversees the company end-to-end, he has brought together a robust team covering all key capabilities required to build a successful fintech company. This includes former bankers like himself, as well as product and technology experts. Most of IMPESA's team is based out of Costa Rica, but also has local representatives in each of the 5 countries outside Costa Rica where it operates. I hope you enjoy. Support for this episode comes from Skyflare, a cybersecurity company with a mission to make e-commerce safe for online shops and which currently protects dozens of Shopify-based businesses through its 360 degrees holistic protection. As an online shop owner, you know that every cent you spend in online advertisement counts, especially in Google AdWords. Therefore, keeping a tight control of your budget and the ROI are essential. Nevertheless, there are bad actors out there who can make those costs explode. Skyflare's Click Fraud Protection solution helps you prevent and resolve those threats. At Mexpreneurs, we had the privilege to have Skyflare's founders in the podcast, including Juan Ocampo, a Mexican tech startup founder, and Skyflare's Chief Operations Officer. Visit skyflare.com/Mexpreneurs to learn more and also to get a 10% discount during your first 3 months of your annual subscription. Skyflare is at the moment available in Europe, Mexico, and Canada through the Shopify App Store. Hello, Mario. Welcome back.
Hi, Sergio. It's great to be here again. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you, Mario. Please tell us, what is IMPESA?
If you think about how we started, the name IMPESA stands for, in Spanish, Innovación en Medios de Pago Electrónicos. Keep in mind, this is back in 2012 when we founded the company and just had the first idea. And basically, we were talking about innovation in payments. What we do, and I would say our North Star, from the moment that we founded a fintech company, we thought about how to make payments easier, what were the needs that existed around the payments industry, how to collaborate with banks as opposed to compete with banks, which there's nothing good or bad about it. That was just what we wanted to do. We wanted to really focus on innovation. I've been a banker for 20-something years. I was really, I don't want to say upset, but I felt the need for innovation in banking. If you think about innovation in banking, since probably 2005, there's really not a lot of innovation. I mean, you can think about internet, 2001, then you can think about ATMs, but really the innovation has come from the fintech side. And what we did was, let's work on innovation for the banking industry, and let's work with the banks. I would say our North Star has always been, the creation of helping the banks innovate. We work with over 25 banks in 5 different countries. We partner with them, and we become part of the ecosystem. Again, back to the question, what is IMPESA? We have 2 main lines of product. One that we launched with PayPal, and that targets the retail side of the business. So small businesses that need to bring funds with that they receive with PayPal. And the other product is MoneyBite. MoneyBite is a card controls product that provides services not only for companies, but also for the retail segment. So you can think about a company that wants to give cards to their employees and that they don't feel comfortable giving them cards because it's like giving them a blank check unless it has controls. So you can give someone a card that's permanently inactive, and when that person wants to use it, you can activate it. You, meaning the company, you don't have to call the bank. Or you can have controls where you decide where that card can be used. So only gas stations and only restaurants, or only hotels, or when can it be used? So only Monday through Friday. So we provide all those kinds of controls for companies, but also for people. So for example, I gave a card to my son who's 22 and he's old enough now to know how to use his card, but my 14-year-old daughter, maybe I'll give her a card with all these kinds of restrictions just in case she loses a card. I would say those are our products. Those are very mature products. We have over 11,000 companies using our software and almost 1 million customers on the retail side. Those are our products, but we're constantly innovating. That's in our DNA. That's our name, IMPESA. And wherever we find ideas or things that we can do, then we incorporate those technologies into our ecosystem. So we have crypto, for example, which is a small part of the business. But when crypto sort of opened up, and I mean opened up by, for example, when BlackRock came and Vanguard and all these big players started trading with cryptocurrencies, then we decided to it's time to incorporate crypto into our wallet. All Visa Direct, for example, for P2P transactions, we added that into our application. We're constantly adding innovation to the payments ecosystem. So that would be M-Pesa at a very, very high level.
And these, as you mentioned at the beginning, comes from the need for banks to innovate. So meaning these different products, these different solutions that you've developed come with the banks in mind in terms of providing banks these capabilities that they may not be able to create on their own, or that there might be a gap in the market or a demand there, but that they just cannot tap with their own resources. So how is that creation process? Because you were also mentioning something super interesting in terms of collaborating with the banks, not competing with the banks. So meaning the banks are white labeling these solutions and offering them to their customers. So how does that collaboration work? And
keep in mind that I'm a banker. So, whenever I talk to the bankers and I tell them things that sometimes they don't want to hear, I tell them with the best of my intentions. And I tell them, listen, I was a banker and I know where it hurts. I know what you can and can't do. Take it from a former banker. Some bankers take criticism seriously and some don't. Coming from a banker, I can tell you, it's the pendulum has gone way far to the regulatory part. It's really hard for a bank to innovate. I would say there's two types of bankers. I go to a banker and I tell this person, here's my technology. And the banker will say, I don't need it. I can do that. And I say, yeah, you can. Of course, anybody can. I mean, I can hire a bunch of guys in a garage and yeah, you can. I know. But when are you going to be able to make this happen? And there's the other kind of banker that says, wow, this is great. Can we partner? And those are the bankers that we love. We work with more than 20 banks in the region, certainly the biggest banks in the region, and we collaborate. To address the first part of your question, you have to be very flexible as well, right? You have to understand that the banks are so heavily regulated, first. Second, the banks are very heavily regulated and the banks have lots of legacy systems because these banks were born on technologies when the cloud didn't exist, when you had legacy systems. That makes it even harder for the banks to innovate. When we talk to the bank, we try to partner and we need to be very flexible because we acknowledge that they're heavily regulated and that it's very hard for them to innovate because of their legacy systems. So we have some white labels, yes. Some banks will say, no, I want this faster. So if you want the product faster, that means that we can't take a lot of time to build a custom-made white label for you, Mr. Banker, so let's do it with our own brand. So I've seen bankers that are telling me, listen, I have this fintech company that's killing me and it's taking away all my customers. I need to react fast. So I will tell them, okay, let's partner. We'll do this project in 4 months instead of 1 year. And you'll have this product in partnership with IMPESA. So we do that as well. Our business model, we have to be flexible. We partner with banks and we provide all these kinds of innovations that, as you well said at the beginning of the interview, the banks will probably take much longer to create. We have a bank that told us, listen, our approval process, just to approve this thing, to not start coding, just to get the approval, will take us 4 months. Okay, 4 months. After that, we will do all the risk assessment and we have to go to the regulator and we have to do this. And God forbid that there's any problems when we go out into production because our customers will kill us and the reputational risk. I understand that. But at some point, you have to take some risks, and the fintech companies do that. So that's the balance that we bring. The banks can't afford to go to market with a new product that may have some bugs because the customers will kill the bank. But the fintech companies can get away with it a little bit more. We always have to produce the best product, but by nature, when you're innovating and we're bringing something new to the market, you're risking that something may happen. You have to be prepared, you have to react fast and all that, everything that we know how to do, but there's that risk. So we bring that balance to the banks. And we work with banks because we acknowledge that, for example, for a small fintech company that needs to raise capital to create their product, if we need on top of that funding to give out lines of credit, it's going to make it even harder. So let's partner. The bank will provide their strength, their balance sheet, their good reputation, they're well known in the market, and we will provide the technology. So let's partner and let's make the best of both worlds. We speak the banking language. Many of the people that work here at IMPESA are former bankers. So, we speak the language and we communicate with them very well. And I think that that's been one of the reasons why we've been so successful.
And also what I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned about these two main products that you have built. Third, if we also include crypto, but the logic behind that portfolio that you've been building is that ultimately everything regarding payments, a bank can outsource to you or partner with you, or is it more, let's say, a la carte? I'm thinking about how do you visualize in the future that portfolio is going to evolve? Like at the end of the day, you're going to become an all-in provider for all payment needs in terms of technology that a bank may have, or is it much more focused on the specific side of the business? How do you see that evolution, and what's sort of the strategy behind that?
That's exactly the strategy of how we are going to expand from now on. There's things that we can do in some markets. For example, in Costa Rica, we are a part of the central bank. That means that we have an ACH account. Being a fintech company, that's unheard of because you have to be regulated and you have to be a bank. Just like we have a visa license. So getting a visa license outside of Costa Rica will take a big, big investment. And we've tried to be very frugal with the use of our funds and, make the best with what we can, because it's not easy. That's another thing. It's not easy to raise capital in Central America because it's a highly fragmented industry. What we're doing is we're focusing on the products that we can scale up faster in the larger markets. Keeping in mind that we're in 5 countries, but these countries are Central America and the Caribbean. For example, going to Mexico, we can't go with our PayPal product. We don't want to compete in the retail part of the business with our money by product because there's a lot of competition in that market. But in the corporate payments industry, there is a big opportunity and there is a big need, and we can provide intellectual property, we can provide stuff that no one else can. That's how we're going, for example, to Mexico. We're going specifically with a partnership with a Mexican bank, launching a co-branded credit card where the bank funds and we provide the technology. We will provide the technology part, the bank will provide their balance sheet, and we will do payments and card controls for large corporations. If you want me to laser focus how we're doing, we are going after the large corporations with our card controls product in partnership with a local bank. Once we do that, and once we provide good business model and a successful business model, and I'm sure that we're going to do it because we have 11,000 companies working with us in Central America, then we're going to scale that up and replicate that to Peru, Colombia, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, South America, and eventually to the US. That's our plan at a very high level.
But that's incredible. And especially this vision of becoming that tech arm or tech extension of the banks. And depending on the specifics of each country or each market, different go-to-market motions in terms of, okay, you can integrate and then the bank is the one offering. It's you and the bank together offering a solution to companies. I think it's fascinating, these flexibility that you've also built into the business model to adapt to the specifics of each market that you're going to be addressing moving forward.
Yes, and I think that's something that's really important and is also part of our DNA and the things that we like doing is that there's going to be an opportunity, I would say, for one bank in each country because it's really hard to work with many banks in many countries. So we are working with one bank in Mexico. I think that this bank should be and will be able to give us enough coverage to address the whole Mexican market. In other words, there's not going to be a need to work with another bank. I would prefer, instead of, for example, opening up the ecosystem and say, okay, yeah, we're going to work with a second bank in Mexico, I would prefer to say, we're going to partner with another bank in another country. So go to Peru and do the same thing, go to Colombia and do the same thing. And so I have one very good partnership with one bank in each country. So I'm a very important partner rather than I have two partnerships with 2 or 3 banks. And at the end of the day, I'm not the most important partner for the 3 of them. I'd rather be a very important partner for one than a non-important for 3. And that's a little bit more philosophical question that I've had discussions with investors like, well, okay, are we going with different banks? There's pros and cons. There's no right answer to that. It's just, I think that if we can address one market with one bank and create a good partnership, that's the way to go.
And yeah, especially because I would imagine you will become a key differentiator of their offer in that specific country. It definitely makes a lot of sense. We will be right back for a conversation with our guest. Support for this episode comes from Partnership Leaders, the leading community of partnership professionals and executives in SaaS and tech with over 1,500 members globally. We're living in the decade of the ecosystem, and every CEO needs to become a partnership leader. Just take a look at the top companies in the world today like Microsoft, Google, and Apple. They have all become platform companies, and partnership executives in IT have been the ones leading these transformations. Partnership Leaders brings these executives together and is building a playbook to enable CEOs and business leaders across industries to transform their organizations into platform companies. If you're a tech startup founder, Partnership Leaders is the place for you to learn how to leverage partnerships to take your business to the next level. I'm a member of PL and co-host of the Germany chapter and have seen firsthand the richness and value of this incredible community. Visit partnershipleaders.com to learn more and to apply to become a member. Make sure to mention in your application that Mexpreneurs referred you so you can receive a special price if your application is accepted. You shared about some of the great traction that you've had so far. I think you mentioned partnerships with PayPal, partnerships with Visa, of course, the traction that you've gotten in Central America, now Mexico. And also, I think you provided some incredible numbers in terms of the customers that you're raising. Probably my question to you is, from all of those big achievements, all of those big milestones, what would you say is probably the one that stands out the most, that, let's say, you would say it's really the biggest milestone or the one that I'm most proud of? No, it has opened the most opportunities for us.
I want to say Visa. And hindsight, when I look back and go back to 2012, when I was thinking about this idea of card controls for companies and my business model, and I don't want to get too technical here, but I'll explain it as simple as possible. But my idea was I want to create with a processing companies like Evertech, like FIS, card processing company. I want to create a card that can be controlled. Basically, I had to convince a processing company to send me the authorization, the message, so that my engine could authorize or decline a transaction. And when I was raising capital, I was like, okay, how do I do that? I'm going to create a co-branded credit card because the processing companies, sometimes most of them have a license to issue cards. So that was my business plan. And I said, okay, I'll use the processing company's license. So I started working on that. And all of a sudden, the Visa guys came and they loved the idea. This was something that didn't exist back then. And they loved the idea. We've known each other for many, many years because, I worked with Visa for 20 something years when I was running cards for a bank. And they said, Mario, we'll give you the license. And I'm like, what? I could not believe it. You have to be a bank in the US to get a Visa license to issue cards. They gave me the license. We became a Visa principal member, and that just changed completely everything. From then on, that pushed us to do lots of other things like, okay, now we're a Visa principal member. This is so exciting. What are we going to do? Okay, let's get to work with Visa. They had an innovation center. Let's go to Miami, and I brought my team to Miami, and let's do ideation sessions. And now that Visa did some APIs, and let's put them to use, even though we probably didn't have an idea how to, what was the market need, but we wanted to just do everything that Visa brought. From then on, we've created an amazing partnership. We love them. They're great. I would say they changed the company. I mean, otherwise today, if we didn't have the Visa license, we would probably be a company that has a co-branded credit card with some bins that belong to a processing company, and we were not in control of our destiny. I never thought about this really until you asked me this question, because there's other important things that happened, like becoming PCI certified, like what we did with PayPal and some products that we launched. We launched AI robots in 2017. And then we stopped because the technology didn't work. And all of a sudden, fast forward 5 years, we have ChatGPT, and said we could have done something like that. That's what we were envisioning. But so we've done lots of crazy things on the way. But if you think about it, everything that pushed us to do that was the fact that we got the Visa license. So, I'm just thinking about it.
And especially how it can become such a life-changing moment for a startup. But now, Mario, I would love to switch gears because you were mentioning now about the great partners that you have, but also you mentioned about the team behind IMPESA. Please walk us briefly through the team behind IMPESA. I have the privilege to talking to you, but I assume there's many more people in addition to you behind.
Definitely. I would have never been able to create this without the best team in the world. And I've always been very, very proud of everyone. Most of the people have stocks in the company. It's real important for me because they feel part and owners, which they are, of the company. We've had very, very low, almost nobody has left the company since we founded it. In the tech world, that's really hard to accomplish. People here have 10, 8, 9 years since we started, still working with us. And most of them are bankers. I don't want to mention names because I don't want the risk of not mentioning someone, but my COO is an amazing guy. We've known each other for years and we're friends. Our COO is also amazing guy, smartest guy I've known in my life. And he worked with me. He was my CTO also at the bank where I was CEO previously. And he had the vision and he said, Mario, I want to go with you when I founded this company. We have an amazing commercial director who has a banking experience, 20 years of banking experience, Scotiabank, Citibank. Everybody from the IT, from the coders, I know everybody, which is a good thing because when I was in the bank, there were so many people that I didn't know. Here, being a smaller company, I know everybody by their name. I can roll up my sleeves and be on the daily meetings from IT every single day from 8 o'clock to 9. So I tell everybody my day starts at 9. I never have meetings before that because I want to know what's happening in the production factory, which is IT. My team is simply amazing. I love everybody that I work with, and they are the reason why I wake up every day and come to the office to work.
And also it's fascinating how you mentioned that it's also thanks to all of these. We mentioned in our previous conversation about also the fact that, let's say, you started as an entrepreneur probably a little bit later than others. But also, I think the fact of all of that experience that you have has also given you the chance to meet all these great people that later decided to join IMPESA and join you in this entrepreneurial journey, which you are, no? Which probably in hindsight, it would have been possible if you wouldn't have this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. The entrepreneur, the founder of the company, sometimes, they take more credit than they should because, they have to be the face and someone has to speak for the company. But what people don't see is the amazing job and the amazing team that a company has. I mean, now that I'm moving to Mexico, I feel very, very confident that what's left behind, quote unquote, which is the Costa Rican, Central America, 5 countries, somebody's going to run this thing. I feel very comfortable that and I'm hoping that they do a better job than I did. It'll be a challenge for me to be in Mexico, and these guys are doing a better job than I did. So that's something that you have to wish for, and I'm pretty confident that it's going to happen.
What I would love also to learn is your priorities for the next 6 to 12 months. So you mentioned Mexico, you mentioned some great things. What would you say are the key things that you're looking forward in the upcoming months?
We're finalizing a capital raise that we need to go to Mexico. So at this moment, IMPESA is growing at a 65% year over year, IMPESA Central America. So we have to keep that and speed up the pace of that part of the business. My mission is go to Mexico and grow it and make it big, because Mexico has the potential to become 5, 6, 10 times what IMPESA is today. That's my priority at this moment. I think that it's going to be a challenge to be in production in about 5 or 6 months, which is our plan. And then just make sure that it works fine and that everything is a fine-tuned machine. And I would say that probably in 12 months, I should be opening up 1 or 2 more countries in South America. But our first mission is execute Mexico, because that's what brings the most valuable and the most growth in scaling up our operations. And after that, probably 9 to 12 months down the road, we should be evaluating which country will be next, whether it be Colombia, Peru, Chile, Brazil. We are working on that as we're speaking.
Exciting times ahead. Mario, I would just love to wrap it up with your best advice for aspiring founders. You already gave some great insights in our previous conversation. One additional golden nugget would be fascinating from your side.
Besides what we discussed on our previous conversation, I would say that we mentioned how scaling up fast is important, how going to the big markets is important, because that's what investors look for. Growth is important. I want to add one last thing, which is the financial part, which is what most startup companies struggle with. You should have a very, very strong and professional finance team that will be able to give you accurate financial statements, accurate projections, and things that you need to be prepared to discuss with VCs or private equity funds or capital providers, investors. That's really, really important. And we're really focused on that. We have an amazing, our COO is our CFO as well. But this guy just manages the numbers like nobody else. And we have an amazing software that allows us to do the best projections that we can and to hit our numbers to the cent. That is really important. And during these past months that I've been raising capital on capital raise mode, the teamwork that I do with my CFO and getting the numbers right and discussing projections becomes something really important. And you can be written off by an investor just because you show projections that don't match or that don't make sense. So that is really, really, really important. You have to have a solid, sound business plan, but finance should be at the same level.
That's an incredible way to wrap up our conversation. I wouldn't expect anything different from a banker as well. Mario, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. We'll be looking closely into the evolution of IMPESA, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Sergio. I really appreciate everything that you've done, your time. It's been great being here, and I look forward to meeting you in person in the future.
Fantastic. Will do. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you. Take care.
And thanks to you for joining us today. Please remember to subscribe via your favorite podcast app to be notified about new episodes and share with us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Thank you also to the Maxpreneurs team, Valeria Morel, Héctor Barragán from Hyper Voltage, Francisco Jaimes, Pamela Elizalde, Katia Cruz, Rocío Marroquín. I am Sergio Chavez. See you next time.